All right, testing, testing. 1 second. There we go, and now my audio should be good. All right, so the topic of today would be, of course, as the title states, pedophilic trans and drag queens. So, I was talking about it today, and I upset about 3 people so far. And I'm going to go over the entirety of my opinion on what that statement means. So, of course, pedophilia in of itself is when somebody wants to sexualize themselves in front of minors, or when someone sexualizes minors, or, of course, in more extreme cases, when someone rapes or touches a minor. All of that is despicable, and the punishment for such should be castration completely. No kids for that fucker. But, anyways, the specifics of this is with the LGBT and drag. So, there's been a lot of news recently about, for example, pride parades being canceled over so-called anti-LGBT laws. And what these laws actually state is that one should not be allowed to dress provocatively in front of children. Sexually in front of children is what I mean. And they should not be allowed to put their children in sexualized clothing and go out into public like that. Probably shouldn't be allowed in their own home either, but, that's for Child Protective Services to deal with, right? And ever since those came into place, the pride parades have just outright been canceled in response, because they're like, oh, that's so anti-gay, I guess we're just going to cancel the pride parade. They're going to really hate that. Nobody hates that, let's be honest. And on the other hand, here in Canada, we're doing things like banning protests outside of drag shows that are at schools, and banning counter protests at LGBT protests. And that is outright a despicable overreach into the freedom of speech for peoples in Canada. I would say that is outright on the line where maybe some people should be taking care of their local government officials, making sure that they know we don't want our freedoms to be pushed any further. And all in the name of, oh, they might get offended. At schools, there should never, inherently never, be any sort of sexualized event. If you want a drag queen to come to your school because, oh, you think it's inclusive and it's going to help the children, you are the problem. Inherently, you are the problem. What I have seen is a divide within these communities. Like, for example, Gays Against Groomers was put into place in order to try and minimize the effect of perverted gay people, and it's also split between the drag group as well. Yeah. All right. I'll return later. Alrighty. I am back, and as I was saying, it is split between the drag group as well. When you look at things like these, people are using legitimate things like homosexual people, or, I don't think sexual deviance in the way of a man dressing as a woman is legitimate, but we'll say it is, as long as they're not fucking with the kids. But they're using these things in order to push an agenda of pedophilia. And my opinion is that Anyone who wants to shake their ass in front of minors is a pedophile. Anyone who wants to wear provocative clothing in front of minors is a pedophile. Anyone who wants to touch them, pedophile. Anything in which you are bringing something sexual to the table and then having it be involved with minors is pedophilia, and that's why I am against drag shows at schools. I am against LGBT marches if they encourage sexualized clothing. There are some that do not, and people just go in normal clothing. But those are usually only in rural towns like mine. If you look at the major parades, it's all people in like bondage gear and things like that, in which case minors should not be allowed to attend. And what you've seen with that sort of ruling is that when you don't allow minors to attend those events, they outright cancel them because the people who wanted to go to those events were fucking pedophiles. Anyone ever who wants to sexualize a child, regardless of their sexuality, is a pedophile. And I am not for banning drag queens or whatever from schools entirely, but I am in favor of banning them while they are in drag and from hosting things like drag shows. The same can be said for trans people. I am not for banning them from schools entirely, but I am for banning them from twerking in the laps of minors, wearing provocative clothing, and overall being fucking pedophiles. And anyone who ever comes up to me and says, it's minor attracted person, like some people have when it comes to the internet, which is probably not how people think in I hope it's not how the majority of people think in real life, but I've been told, but I'm a minor attracted person. That's not the same. I didn't do anything. You're a fucking pedophile and you deserve to be castrated. Anyone who is a is an apologist for drag queens in schools, for trans events and gay events that sexualize themselves and others in front of minors. In fact, homosexuality is entirely sexual. It's in the fucking name, homosexuality. It's entirely sexual, and I don't think minors should be in that events at all. Imagine if we had a fucking cisgender parade where we're fucking whipping our cocks out and being like, oh, I'm so happy to be a man. And we wanted kids to be there. That would not be okay. And I'd say that same set of standards should be applied to all groups, regardless of how retarded they are. I don't care if you've got mental shit going on where you think you're some other gender. You can't go after kids because of that. Go to the fucking psych ward, not to the preschool. Like, goddamn. And I think that's the end of what I have to say on the topic of pedophilic trans and drag queens. Feel free to like or dislike if you dislike this, converse in the comments, and have a good day. And, oh wait, I want to just add one little disclaimer. This is not an open thing where you're like, oh, you should attack all trans people over this. I'd say you figure out whether or not they are perverted, and if they are, then yes, they are worthy of being discriminated upon, but otherwise let them be retards on their own. Like, listen, if they're not hurting anyone but themselves, let them do it, but if they're doing anything to do with children, fucking annihilate them. Like, seriously. We don't need more of what happened to, for example, me and a lot of other people to happen to more people. Do not allow this to continue. Pedophilic events must end.